I originally started this podcast to dispel the myths of health, fitness, and wellness. And many of the myths that we've covered already, of course, big and warrant their own podcast. But we don't want to overlook those small myths that are involved in health, fitness, and wellness today on the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast.
Welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Health, wellness, exercise, nutrition, and a whole lot more. Got questions? Call us and leave a message at 251-278-EDGE or message us at Personal Edge Fitness on Facebook and Instagram, at Team PE on Twitter, or personaledgefitness.com.
Good day and welcome to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Garrett Williamson, president of Personal Edge Fitness. So glad you joined us today and I appreciate you tuning in. If you're interested in contacting us about the show or have any questions concerning this particular topic or others that we've covered, or if you have an idea for the show, like somebody that submitted an idea for this particular show, you can contact us at my email address, which is Garrett, Garrett, at personaledgefitness.com. That is, of course, our website also, which is personaledgefitness.com, and our Facebook page, which is Personal Edge Fitness. You're welcome to give us a call at our mobile location at 251-341-0927, or you can contact us, of course, at Eastern Shore at 251-651-0927. Now, I want a couple of programming notes I want to tell you about. We've got a couple of shows coming up, which is kind of why I wanted to do this show on the small myths. We've got a couple of coming up in the next couple of weeks that I wanted to tell you about. We have some guests that are going to be on the show, which is going to take me a little bit away from dispelling the myths. We're still going to be talking a little bit about that. The guests that we have coming up are pretty exciting. I want to tell you a little bit about them. Charlie Marlowe. Charlie Marlowe is a graduate of Southern Miss, exercise physiology graduate. He happens to be a current exercise specialist with Personal Edge Fitness. Now, Charlie has just come back from receiving a new certification in pain-free performance. Now, it's actually a pain-free performance specialist. And what Charlie is doing with this new knowledge is basically helping our clients to optimize their movement systems to train without pain. Now, we're going to get really deep into that this coming week when Charlie's going to be a guest on our show. And speaking about pain and dealing with pain, we have Kyle Thibodeau who's going to join us the following week, who's with Refine PT. Now, he's going to come on and talk to us about a rather unique approach that he and his partner have for physical therapy. So please tune in for those two shows. Now, today, I was thinking about this the other day, and actually, it was funny. I was thinking about it because I had a phone call from a listener. Richard from Gulf Breeze, thank you so much for calling in about a myth that I have not thought about. Now, it's one we deal with day in and day out. I see quite often. And when he threw this out, I was thinking, wow, that's not really a great idea for a whole podcast. But as I started thinking about it and then asking some of my staff members, we realized there were a lot of little myths and misunderstandings concerning health, fitness, and wellness that we see on a daily basis that are still very important, very significant. And I started to compile a list, and I had to kind of cut back the list because some of this we've covered before, and also we wanted to keep it to a manageable podcast. But Richard, thank you so much for giving us that idea, and we're going to address one that you spoke about. And these are little things that we run into. Now, these are little things that we see, we being my staff, and I see pretty well day in and day out. So much so that the one that Richard mentioned, I see that all the time and had hardly thought of it because it's just like, it's like breathing to us. We see these misunderstandings. We see these concepts that people come up with either because of something they've put together on their own, or typically they've heard it somewhere. I read it somewhere. I heard it somewhere. And this is supposed to be true, or this is supposed to be a problem. And it's amazing how much of our training we spend covering those problems, and which is, again, of course, the reason for the podcast. So I'm going to hit a couple of them today. I'm going to hit 3 or 4 of them today. Some of these, like I say, we've talked about a little more in depth, but they're good reminders because I still get these questions. And this is one that we see day in and day out. I fear that even after this podcast, we won't quite get through to people on this particular myth, but ab work. Ab work does not reduce, quote unquote, belly fat. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous of working the abdominals, and I've seen commercials and they sell all kinds of equipment and you're supposed to tone that area. And I know I'm not getting rid of the fat, but I am toning that area. Listen, no matter what, you can do all the crunches, all the ab work you possibly can imagine and still not reduce, quote unquote, that belly fat in your abdominal region. Reason being is that it has to do with how we take on fat and how we dispense fat, get rid of fat, or how we burn it. The way it's placed on our body is it depends on the type of body you have. You have an endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph body. And typically it boils down to the 2 popular ones that we use a lot when guys are built like apples and women are built like pears. And so in that scenario, the apple basically guys typically gain the majority of their fat, their adipose tissue, around their midsection. And it's the combination of, we've talked about this before, metabolism being calories in, calories out. In other words, if we take too many calories in and we don't expel enough calories, we're going to gain weight. And typically, if we're not as active as we should be, in other words, we're eating for a 5,000 calorie a day expenditure, but we're only burning a 4,000 calorie a day expenditure, typically we're going to pack on some body fat. And guys are going to typically gain it in that area. Women have this problem also, but they typically gain it around their waist, around their hips. And because the advertisers know that sell different types of products, know that this myth exists, they know that people are confused about this, they will bend over backwards to exploit this and sell all kinds of devices that do all kinds of abdominal exercises, or devices that somehow shrink or get rid of that belly fat. These wraps and stuff that people do around their stomach, where they'll wear some kind of a neoprene slimming device or fat burner or trim device or whatever, because it's going to sweat that fat away. No, that does not happen. The way we happen to get rid of fat is that we lose it evenly around the body. This is why you can lose weight, you can drop body fat, and you may still notice that I still have a gut. Well, most likely your gut has gone down, but you still have a large amount of fat in that area, because that's the way the good Lord decided that's how it's going to be deposited. So when you're reaching and grabbing your gut, you used to grab 4 inches, now you're grabbing 2 inches, but you're still grabbing inches, and that does have you concerned. No matter what, abdominal exercises are fantastic. They're great for core work. They're great, just like many other exercises. I mean, most other strengthening exercises, and making sure we're maintaining all our muscles. The reason that we have focused on the abdominals a lot is because of core work. And the fact that a lot of your power, a lot of your stability comes from your core, which is your abdominals and your lower back. And so, of course, we need to work that area. Typically, we overwork it because we're trying to find that six-pack and trying to burn that fat in that area. Here, you want an exercise that burns a lot of fat? Do squats. I'm serious. Do squats. And why am I saying squats? Well, they're going to work the largest muscle in the body, which is going to be your glutes and your quadricep group. And those muscles are going to burn more calories. They're going to burn more calories than abdominals are. And as your body is saying, hey, we've got more calories going out than we've got going in, let's start taking fat from different places, it will go to your stomach, even though you're not working your stomach with squats. It'll go to your stomach and start pulling some of those fat cells away and actually burning them. But crunches upon crunches, ab work upon ab work, no matter what kind of ab work it is not going to automatically reduce the belly fat in that area. And by the way, that term is absurd. It used to be, I don't have fat, I've got belly fat, I've got this special fat. But we used to talk about different types of deep fat and what have you. I get so upset when I hear the different types of words that we call these things. One big example of that is in the 80s and early 90s. The big one the trigger word was, I don't have fat, I have cellulite. Oh my gosh, that's different. I've got cellulite. It's not fat, it's cellulite, and cellulite's special. And I know it's special because these devices and pills that you're supposed to take get rid of cellulite. It's just another way of fooling you that somehow that fat is special. Now, speaking of ab work, and let's get off that belly fat subject, let's go to one that Richard asked about, and I thought was fantastic. He was talking about doing abdominal exercises and where he should put his hands when he's doing like crunches or sit-ups or what have you, because it typically bothered his neck. And man, the light went off when I heard that. I was thinking, oh, that's a fantastic small hit myth to cover on the magic place to place your hands. Usually, when we're doing abdominal exercises, and we're doing especially ones that are, of course, we're lifting our upper body, we're trying to figure out, do we put our hands across our chest, but we put our hands behind our head? Do you put your hands by your side? What do you do? And typically, what we're concerned with is our neck. Supporting the head, therefore your neck won't, quote unquote, strain or hurt. And I'll get back to why I said quote unquote there. Or if we do have our hands behind our neck, we're worried about pulling too hard on our head and therefore straining our neck that way. Well, it boils down to this. And the whole where do I put my hands concerning neck all started with exercisers conducting abdominal exercises, sitting up, what have you, and they'd start to feel a strain in their neck. And it was right close to the spine. As long as it's not a sharp pain, it's close to the spine, so it concerns people. They think that they are hurting their neck. I'm working my neck. I feel my neck. This is hurting my neck. Actually, it's not. Believe it or not, as long as it's not a sharp pain deep in the spine, that's something completely different. But the most common sensation that we have there is a strain in the trapezius muscle. And the reason we have that strain is because our head typically weighs about 8 pounds. And your body's very used to having that head rest right on the top of the shoulders, and the trapezius supports it no problem whatsoever. It's not used to having the head lean backwards and pull backwards on your neck. And so what's happening is, yes, the muscle is straining. I'm careful using that word because if you're doing bicep curls, you're straining your biceps. If you're doing push-ups, you're straining your chest. You're working them. You're actually giving it a workout. And so when you feel that sensation, unless, like I say, it's a sharp pain, it's a real, something in the spine, I would say continue on with it. And the reason being is you want to work that muscle. You want to have a strong neck, not a big neck, but a strong neck. And so actually it's a very good exercise to be doing, and that sensation that you're feeling is not so much a bad thing. If you have any questions about that, contact us. Call us at 251-341-0927, or of course Easton Shore at 251-651-0927, and we'll talk to you about the different sensations that you're having and see whether or not it's just, hey, you need a little workout on that neck. Speaking of the neck getting big, another famous myth, and that is that lifting weights, especially for females, lifting weights will make you big, will make you large. Now, I've talked about this in another podcast, and I had one of the funniest stories I've ever had working with a client. They were talking to me about their daughter-in-law, and this was a regular exerciser. She worked out really, really hard. It's impressive what she did, and it's amazing because I could throw all kinds of heavy weights at her, and she stayed very sleek, very svelte. She was in great shape, slender, just really felt good about herself. And it's amazing that she never would put this together because she said, well, I can do that, but when my daughter-in-law lifts weights, she gets really big. Oh, no, she has to lift really, really, really light weights. She can't lift everything over 3 or 5 pounds because the way her body works, another one of my favorite phrases, is that she gets big. Some years later, I was speaking to the same client. We were doing some stretching, and she was talking about her daughter-in-law had just gone to get liposuction to remove some of this bigness. And I looked at my client and I said, so how much muscle did they have to take out? Well, of course, I'm being sarcastic and ridiculous, but at that time, my client got it. Listen, the majority of the times that a female gets quote unquote big from lifting weights, I hate to tell you, ladies, what's happening in that situation is you're exercising and you're eating more than you should be, too much. And so you're gaining fat in those areas and you think it's because your muscles are getting so big. With all due respect, you don't possess the testosterone to get those kind of large muscles. You can develop muscles, you can develop strength and what have you, be toned, be very attractive, very happy about the way you feel, fit in your clothes, look great, but you're not going to be packing on that size. Sorry, it just doesn't happen. It's another myth. Another myth also happens to be able to deal with soreness. Now, I've talked about soreness before, and I've talked about growing muscle. And the soreness that you feel the next day, typically people think that's lactic acid. And actually, it's not. Lactic acid, you do have that in your body. That does get released, and there's a soreness involved with that. The burning sensation that you feel when you're lifting weights to an excess, and actually you can do this with cardio work too, and that is that burning feeling that you feel. If you're lifting weights, you feel it around your 10, 11, 12, 13, 15th rep. It's that burning sensation that you get in your muscles that your body's telling you, hey, stop this. This is starting to hurt. And you stop. Well, 30 seconds after you stop, that byproduct of a muscle tearing, which is lactic acid, and actually does cause a burning sensation on your muscle to tell your brain to stop lifting, that lactic acid has dissipated. Your body's gotten rid of it. It's gone. The soreness that you feel the next day is actually, like I've said before, it's the rebuilding process. That is when your white blood cells are in there cleaning up the damage, using the protein that you've got in your body along with the calories to start regrowing muscle and building it and making it stronger. So the soreness that you feel the next day actually is the repair process. It's something we tell people if they really want to feel better, if they're sore the next day after working out, typically everybody wants to stretch. Now, I'm a gymnast by training, so of course I'm a big fan of doing stretching. We stretch every client at the end of every single session, so flexibility is very important to me, but that's one time I would tell you not to stretch. Instead, I would tell you do a little cardio. Go out and walk a little bit. Speed that repair process by getting some circulation going. Yet another myth, that idea that lactic acid is a soreness that you feel the next day. I know these are kind of quick hits, and they kind of seem simple, but they're very important to me, and they're important enough to reiterate. Just like the idea of metabolism being some kind of monster in your body that changes with time and happens because of certain aspects that are chemically happening in your body. No, metabolism is nothing more than calories in, calories out. The reason we overeat, another quick hit myth, and the reason we overeat happens to be with our brain, has nothing to do with our body. You can like food all you want, but the reason we overeat is cravings in our brain, and they're associated with either salt, sugar, caffeine, or alcohol. One of those four things we overeat because our brain wants to overeat it, and the main reason why we crave and overeat, you know as well as I do, you know what's coming up, you know I'm going to talk about it. Lack of water. 100 ounces a day, every day of the week, every day of your life, every day forever, every day that ends in a Y, recommended by the CDC, by the National Institute of Health, by Mayo Clinic, by Harvard Medical, Stanford Medical, Pritikin, Cooper Clinic. I can keep going. You want to knock down cravings? Take in plenty of water. Now listen, that was a lot. I know it was. We see these myths come up all the time. I mean, weekly, and I can talk about these things almost till I'm blue in the face. I don't think we can say it enough. I don't think we repeat it enough to get these things out of our way in order for us to improve our lives and actually reach our level of wellness. Hey, listen, remember, tune in next week now for Charlie Marlowe. He's going to be talking about his pain-free performance specialist certificate. This is fascinating. I've watched him in the facility, some of the exercises that he's doing. It's going to be quite exciting to hear him talk about what he's learned and how we're all working it into our program at Personal Edge Fitness. And again, if you have any questions about therapy, have any questions that you would like to ask a PT, please contact us at Garrett@personaledgefitness.com. You can also contact me through the website, personaledgefitness.com, or of course our Facebook page, Personal Edge Fitness, because we have Kyle Thibodeau from Refine PT who will be joining us week after next. I'm looking forward to having both those guys on the show. Folks, it's all about getting those myths out of your way so that all your work that you're putting into getting yourself better can really help you reach your level of wellness. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please like and share the podcast and join us next week.
Thanks for listening to the Personal Edge Fitness Podcast with Garrett Williamson. Subscribe now and be a part of the show by calling 251-278-EDGE or message us on Facebook and Instagram at Personal Edge Fitness or at Team PE on Twitter, and visit us at personaledgefitness.com.